So I'll see if did I see Renee on? You wanted to just give us an update on mortgages. And before you do that, I'm gonna share with you something I saw on CNBC. So it must be true, right? You know that, right? It has to be.
Yeah.
It said that home affordability in 2023, this was about a week ago, so I'm sure it's off of old numbers. The average income household in the country pre-pandemic, 40% of the average in the country could afford to buy a house. Actually, 40%. In 2022, it was down to 20.7. And then this is probably at the peak. It was at 15.5% of the average household could afford to buy the average house. So hopefully Renee has some good news for us.
I do, because I think those numbers will change very soon. The 30-year fixed rates right now. Yesterday, Tiffany did live pricing on a $680,000 lead that Fran sent her. Thank you, Fran. And she priced out a $480,000 loan, and the rate was between 6.5 and 6.75. So that's tremendous. That's a huge decline from where we were when those numbers were created, which when rates were up in the high sevens with points, the affordability was contracted, obviously. So now with rates sliding down into the sixes, and of course that was with no add-ons, assuming 30% down, a 740 or higher credit score. So that's where all the best rates start. And then the minute anything changes, the down payment is shortened or the credit score goes down, then obviously those are the add-ons that keep, driving the rate up, as Brian shared with us a couple of Zooms ago, the grid. So this is great news. The 30-year rates are definitely coming down. The 10-year took a little bit of a hit yesterday, but it's still below 4. And I think the commentary that you're hearing out there about rates sliding and rates going down even further, I really do have a good feeling about this, and I think they will continue. And if we can get rates back down under 6, I think you're going to see a lot of people jump off the fence that haven't already, because I think my colleagues here would agree. Activity has certainly picked up at a time of year when it's normally not that busy. So we're excited. We're excited.
So Renee, a lot of our agents haven't been through some of these prior markets where points were prevalent. That goes back probably 20 years ago. Are you seeing now that in order to get the most competitive rates, you're having to pay like a half a point or a point just to set the rate expectations?
Yeah, so that's a two-part answer. Sometimes, depending on the loan amount and where the bond is trading, it makes sense for a borrower to pay a little bit because the differential could be significant. For example, if 6.5 is with a quarter point or a half point, the next jump up to no points might be 6 7/8. So in that particular instance, it would make sense for them to pay a little bit to buy the rate down. So now that rates are sliding down, you'll see a lot less points being encouraged. But when rates were up in the 7s, oh yeah, I mean, you had to, otherwise the next jump was almost into the 8s. But yes, to answer your question directly, Rob, in the 80s and 90s, points were all there was no 0-point options. So it only happened as rates slid down that everyone started to think points were a bad thing, but they're not necessarily. And we look at each case and each borrower independently. And if it makes sense for them to pay a little bit, if they pay $2,000, $3,000, but they're going to save $200 a month, and they recapture the cost of the points within a year or 6 months, and they plan to be in the home longer, and they have the cash, then we're going to encourage that.
Wonderful. I just wanted to, sometimes we assume, and we've gotten so comfortable doing things. And I'm also seeing now on some of the contracts that there are now seller concessions being granted. And if you've been in the business only since the pandemic, you have no idea what that means. And Renee, maybe just talk one brief moment about how that helps a buyer.
So I'll give you an example of a file we did the other day. We had a family member actually trying to buy a house in Florida. And we were going back and forth trying to get them to qualify. We had some flexibility in the price because the house had been sitting a little bit. The borrower didn't qualify. We just couldn't get her there. We were short. So what we did was we, instead of lowering the price of the home, excuse me, what we did was we had the seller give a $9,000 contribution towards closing expenses. We bought the rate all the way down and had the borrower pay, I think it was 2 points, and we had the seller pay for the points essentially through the seller contribution. So it was a win-win for everyone. The seller ended up getting the price they were willing to pay, sell the house for. The buyer ended up getting qualified because now we could use a lower rate, and we used those $9,000 directly towards the points. So seller concessions are a great way to assist a buyer. We have to be a little careful and make sure the comps are there, which shouldn't really be a problem right now in this market, obviously with the sale prices that we're seeing happening. But yeah, seller contributions are great. You just have to be careful because depending on the amount of money down will determine how much the concession will be allowed, whether it's 3% or 6%. So, when you're putting those together, I would definitely say reach to one of us and we can assist you and we can help you craft the contract so that you won't get tangled up when they go for a mortgage.
I just wanted to add that Tiffany did that pre-approval for me within 24 hours. I mean, she got all the clients' information. It was just tremendous. And I needed it to actually access a showing. It was a requirement of a showing, so I couldn't show the property unless I had it. So that was really awesome.
And Fran, you had, if I'm not mistaken, a real pre-approval. You didn't have a,
Yes.
hey, can you talk to my buyer? They're saying they make this and throw me a letter because that's what everybody else does. Because that's not a pre-approval.
Right. We were very fortunate they had their documentation. So they were able to get it to Tiffany and she followed up with them. So it was really great.
Good.
So that's a great story. And I think that we just need to, share what's currently happening so that we can help our clients do better. And I think, concessions might now be part of it because that gives our lenders the flexibility to help buyers, have more affordable options, right? You could put a larger down payment, lower the PMI by having a sales concession. You can buy something you otherwise might not be able to acquire. So there are just so many things that our trusted lenders can do for us to help our clients during this period of time. So thank you so much for that. Now I'm going to kind of go into my topic for today. And I also want to recognize our new team members from Vero Beach. I see several of you on. If you're on camera, just wave so everybody knows. Welcome to the family. I think we'll hopefully officially be changing the name this week. Thank you, everybody. And referrals, New Jersey, Florida, Vero Beach, another office we have there. So let's do right and by our clients and help ourselves by keeping those referrals going back and forth. So today's topic is kind of like a dump of what's in my brain and some of the beliefs I have. And I just want to reiterate, and I'd like to, open those up for discussion. I put this document onto the invitation link that I sent out. So you can go to the invitation link. You can save it as a PDF. You can look at it. It should be not editable for you, but you can make a copy and put your own notes in it if you'd like. So here's my document here. So Realtor Principles for Success. Have a plan or plan to fail. One of the oldest things. And I don't even know if this is a true study, but it's been a mythical topic that's talked about apparently there was a Harvard class where they took a survey and they asked people, do you have goals? Do you have written goals or no goals? And the 3% of the people that had written goals had a net worth 50 years later or 40 years later, 10 times the amount of the 97% that didn't have written goals. Now, that might have been Bill Gates, might have been in their class or something like that to skew the numbers. But I think you get where I'm coming at here. If you don't have a plan and you don't measure your success, because what gets measured improves. And if you don't have a yardstick to measure your performance, you're starting at a handicap. Number two is, develop strong habits. I've seen many successful people in this industry do it out of pure talent. And sometimes pure talent is both a blessing and a curse, because you find success early, but then it's hard to keep improving upon that success unless you build strong habits and you have the discipline, consistency, and commitment. Okay. Discipline, consistency, and commitment. And this is all not sexy stuff, but this is all stuff that, 99.8% of the people that we look up to are actually doing. They might outwardly take take their phone and say, hey, I just sold another house, but you don't know everything that went behind that. Have healthy habits for yourself and your business, budget your time and money. And I don't think, after doing this for, it's going to be close to 35 years now, I don't think that you can have, a healthy business if you're not in the right mindset and you're not in a good physical health. Or I don't think that you can have one without the other in harmony. Okay. So this is not a LA fitness class, but I think if you put a little bit of an emphasis on eating and exercising, it will put you in a better mindset to be productive and more efficient, so that you not only spend less time because you're more intentional, but you're more effective. Okay. You can only, cheat sleep for a period of time. And this is probably one of the most important ones I'm going to recommend as we come into a very tumultuous political season. Feed your mind a healthy diet. Okay. And I don't know what podcast I was listening to, but somebody said on average, Americans only read one book a year, and it's usually a fiction book. Okay. So maybe if we can, every other month, find a book that is healthy for our brain and healthy for our career. I actually enjoy when I, read a good book, go to a good seminar, or listen to some podcasts, because it energizes me, right? And again, I'm not sure what podcast I had this on. I think it was Ray Dalio, who's like the according to Tony Robbins and many others, he's like the best investor of his time, even better than Warren Buffett. And he commissioned a study where he tried to figure out what companies over a long period of time are going to perform the best. And what he determined was that learning was the only sustainable advantage in business. Think about that. Learning and your openness and your commitment to learning is the only thing that will give you a sustainable advantage in business. I thought that was pretty enlightening, right? And some of the best prospectors in the business, you would think that they know what to do and they wouldn't need to practice. And, there are a lot of analogies, but do you think a professional athlete who's the best at what they do, once they get drafted, do you think they stop practicing, or do you think they practice more? What do you guys think, ladies?
More.
Practice more.
Right. They practice more. They want to sharpen their skills. It's more competitive at the top. So you need to stay relevant. I am like blown away at some of these people that are doing 100+ listings, and they say it's nothing. It's 2 listings a week. But what they do is they still role play. And I'm like, how can you still role play after 7 years of doing 100 listings a year? And, on these uh, YouTube sessions or podcasts, they're like, well, that's the reason why I can do it, because I do role play. And, when you get hung up on and sometimes cursed at for making calls, you need to have that role playing foundation to have the consistency.
Because each situation changes. I mean, you have to change with the times. You can't use the same scripts all over and over again. You have to keep changing them as you go along. So you might want to use a script when you role play or when you call or cold calling or whatever. You're using a certain script that's comfortable for you. You have to keep changing it. You can't keep it the same all the time.
And Ron, I was listening to, I recall this one. I was listening to an interview with an agent and one assistant, one licensed agent, one admin doing 150 transactions. He's a Mike Ferry student. Very, 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 very interesting interview. A couple of things I want to point out. One is this individual in his own space said, I abandoned social media and it grew my business. He said the time I was spending on it, whether it was an hour, hour and a half a day, I repurposed that time towards prospecting. And I think I'm getting 10 to 14 extra listings and I'm maybe losing 4. Okay. I don't recommend that, but I just want to say, if you're somebody that doesn't do social media, don't be concerned about it. Go with what works for you. And another thing that he had said that, well, actually 2 other things he said that were enlightening to me was, he said he only follows Mike Ferry, and he said he wanted to have a consistent message. And he said that his wife had asked him, why do you keep going to the same events? Why don't you want to go someplace else? Don't they tell you the same thing over and over again? And he said, yeah, they do. He said, but you know what? I'm in a different space when I hear it now than I was 4 years ago and a year ago. And to me, that was something that wasn't obvious to me, right? Because when he first started out, he was a team member on somebody else's team. Then a year later, he was an individual. And now fast forward 2 years later, when he hears that same message from Mike Ferry, he's like, you know what? Now I have an admin and I have a team member that I need to look at. Those same words have different meaning to me. So not playing favorites on any coaches, not playing favorites on what you want to do. I mean, we have team leaders here that don't make any outbound calls and are having their best year and month ever. There's a team leader who doesn't do a whole lot of outbound calls. I think is going to be closing 12 million this month. So don't just pigeonhole yourself to one thing, but I do think that we need to be dedicating a certain amount of time towards income producing activities. Okay. And those are the things that are uncomfortable that we don't really want to do. In that team leader's particular case, that's, cranking out tons of videos, right? So if you're not cranking out tons of videos and you're not making calls, you're probably not doing the activities that you need to do to elevate your business. Just saying. Mastermind alliance. I think this is an example of a mastermind alliance, but I think we can go much deeper. If we build a strong network, or alliance, we can achieve more on a shorter period of time with less stress and more certainty. Sounds a lot like what we talk about when we speak to our clients, but chances are, Ron, if you've encountered an issue or somebody in your sphere there has an issue, one of you have had a pretty good way of resolving it, right? So by us sharing that, we just go so much further, so much faster, with so much more confidence. So we can ride on the shoulders of giants. We can do our own R&D, which is rip off and duplicate. Okay. And I I think a lot of us openly offer our peers to just copy what we're doing if it works, right? Because we know that what we give, we get in return, if not in droves. And let's stop reinventing the wheel in 2024. Okay, let's network, let's share ideas, let's get there a lot quicker, serving clients a lot better. This is one of my thoughts, is have faith and always put the client's interest above your own. It makes life simple. Okay. I know we come across peers in the industry, that tell white lies that become big snowballs that they can't even keep track of their white lies. So if we always do the right thing, we always put the client's interest ahead, we're always going to sleep well at night. Our business is going to grow better long term, and we never have to question what we're doing. Okay. Always be overly honest, true and truthful. It works. Share things with your client. If you have gray areas, talk to your brokers, talk to me. There's always a solution and a way to get out of any type of a problem. By show of hands, who thinks if somebody has a 90% customer satisfaction, that's awesome or great? I'm saying that I'd like to see us get 101% satisfaction. And what I mean by that is, those clients where you go the extra mile, you do something extraordinary, they're going to be advocates of yours for life. Okay, they're going to be those raving fans. They're going to be giving you referrals, because when you do a good job, if somebody says, "Hey, how did Fran do on your sale?" She was great, but they're not going to go out of their way and tell you the 9 things that she did that completely blew them away, right? How they thought they were going to lose the deal. There were 11 offers. How many things do we do that the clients don't even know about? So let's just have absolute transparency. Every action we should do, we should assume, if our client was looking over our shoulder, they'd be proud of us. And then we'd be proud to share that with them. Okay. So
This is Karma with Remax.
yes, Karma.
Thank you. I agree with you 100% for a client satisfactory, because I have 3 clients that is actually, they give me their business, which is, I have about 72 transactions this year. I'm not allowed to say what my award until February, which is fine. I made an income over 300,000. And these people, because they were very happy, they actually gave me their business, their coworker, their employee, and it is beyond, that is definitely having a client is happy with your service. It is your future business all the time.
Right. And Karma, I think we have an example of that ourselves, right? Because we worked together. You were in the first office I had actually purchased, and now we've reunited in 2023, right?
I know 15 years I've been with you I was so thrilled that you came back.
Yep, and the same is true here. So there are just so many ways that this holds true. So
Rob,
good.
excuse me, if I could just add to what she just said, one of the points that she made, every transaction that I had this year was from a previous client. And that's what we work for, that the service that we give our clients is such that, even though there's that statistic about how many buyers actually use their agent when it comes time to sell their house, of being something like 13%. On the other hand, if you offered really great service, I can tell you from my own experience that it comes back to you, no matter how long a time period there was. One of the transactions I had this year dates back 15 years to the last time that I did business with this client.
Wow.
And another one was 8 years ago. So that's what you want to build towards, and keep that in your mind, because there may come a time where, you know, you're like my age and you're not as aggressive as you were when you were younger. And it's certainly nice to pick up the phone from a previous client and have them say, hey, can you help me sell my house? I mean, there's no better gift.
Yep. And I don't know if anybody has ever done this exercise, but I believe Rebecca Lapira, our partner, broker, owner in Closter, has an example where I think she got 37 transactions from one client, and she actually did this exercise for our office up there a few years back, where one person referred 3 people, referred 5 people, and you follow that chain. You know, that's pretty amazing. And just having an awareness of that and maybe reflecting back on where your business came from this year is really powerful. And there were some agents that were, we have a great agent that called me yesterday, said they sent out 50 handwritten letters and they got 2 responses, you know, and I don't know if they were disappointed or not, but I was like, that's amazing, you know, to get 2 responses. And even the people that didn't respond, probably you opened it up and appreciated that extra effort that you did. So let's go that extra mile. It's not just the right thing to do, but it's going to pay big dividends as well. And you'll see, like, almost without exception, doing the right thing always pays off. And, you know, it's really amazing because sometimes you're like, oh, let me do a shortcut. And usually is bad business. Be enthusiastic, love what you do, have a positive attitude and a pleasing personality. It's free, it's priceless. And positivity is magnetic and attracts opportunity. And guess what negativity attracts? Negativity, right?
Yes.
Have confidence, accurate thinking, and focus. Okay. You have certainty. And this was the gentleman that did 147 transactions with Mike Ferry that I listened to. He said that he knows that every 60 contacts, he gets a transaction. And he's like, if I go 200 contacts, I don't get any. I know over time, those numbers are going to prove out to be true because I've done this business long enough. So there's going to be streaks, right? You look at a professional baseball player, if they bat 300, right? That's probably good enough to get a multi-million-dollar contract, but there's going to be 10-game streaks where they bat 0, right? And then there's going to be a 10-game streak where you bat 600. But over time, you're going to revert towards your mean. And when you have these contacts, they're going to equate to business. And I'm going to put this one here, to be honest, because this is my own personal thing. How about that? You have a moral obligation to help as many people as you can. Think of the emotion when you help somebody get into a house, when you change somebody from being in a system of renting to being a homeowner, right? When you help somebody achieve something that they had fear and they didn't know they could do. You measure your standard. And this is kind of the next one kind of goes to your batting average. You know, 10 appointments equals 6 transactions. Okay. That's what this gentleman, you know, he's come to understand that, you know, 10 appointments is 6 transactions. You know, I get 70% of my listing opportunities, 90% of them sell. 10 appointments is 6 transactions. And he has similar metrics for buyers. You know, and Robert, I'm going to call on you for this one here, but don't sweat the small stuff and keep control of your mind. How many times have you seen an agent like freak out, and by the time you call them back, the problem's solved, or by the time you look at it, it's been like, it's a simple solution, right?
Yeah, and I can give you several examples of that. I'll make it very brief. One, I've always had a rule that I turn off my phone at 8 o'clock at night. and I turn it back on at 8 o'clock in the morning, because nothing that comes up in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock in the morning is going to get resolved. So by that time 8 o'clock in the morning rolls around, things have calmed down and it's easier to just address the issue. The second thing is that, and many of my clients have always said this to me, that they'll get all worked up about something and they'll call me, and I'll be very calm, very soft-spoken, and in 30 seconds the panic that they had doesn't exist anymore. And that's part of what they're paying you for, is to control their emotions. And sometimes we lose sight of that because we get worked up ourselves, but the goal is not to, so that you can keep everyone else calm and under control.
And I think I have this somewhere else, but I think if you're doing the right activities and this, I don't know how many we have, almost 80 people on now. If 8 of you can actually take the time and break down where you're spending your day, and then look at what the value of what you're doing yields. I watched a YouTube session with a gentleman by the name of Tom Toole in Mainline, PA. Right, and he does 150 transactions or 200 transactions, almost all FSBOs and expireds, right? And he said that his time on the phone is $2,000 an hour. That's what he earns when he's on the phone. So I think he spends 4 to 6 hours a day on the phone, and you can do the math on how much money he earns. Okay. Most people are probably earning $400 to $600 an hour when they're on the phone, but the problem is it's not every hour.
What was his name again there?
His name is Tom Toole, and he's with Remax in right outside of Philadelphia.
Oh, okay, Tom Tolle, you said?
Toole, like the word tool with
Oh,
an E on
cool.
the
Oh,
end.
okay. I
Yeah.
made an Italian out of it. Okay, good.
Yep.
No problem.
All right. So here's another universal truth, I believe. One listing should yield 2 buyer transactions and 1 additional listing. So if you market around your listing over time, you'll probably get 1 additional listing. It happens by happenstance when most of us don't even do that, but 1 listing should yield 2 buyers and 1 additional listing. And the 2 buyers, oftentimes one of the buyers is the home person that's selling, right? So I'm going to ask Tony Vero, how many of your sellers actually buy with you? Is it 1/3, 2/3? Do you know that number?
This year, it will be about 1/3. Yeah, that the 1/3, because I refer them out. Unless they staying local, unless they are super AAA buyer, I don't work with buyers. I work strictly with sellers.
Right. And somebody in New Jersey who wants to tell me, like, your sellers, what percentage of them actually buy in New Jersey with us? Brand Blakely, I'll call on you. Like, of your sellers, what percentage of them actually buy with you?
Unless they're moving out of state, all of them.
So,
Like 95%.
so 2/3 probably,
Yeah.
or 95%. So some of them, might not, they might be their last sale or an estate, whatever, but
Right.
so there's a simple piece of business is, most listings are buying, right?
Mhm.
So you get a percentage of those that are buying. And if you do strategic marketing and open houses, you'll get extra buyers that house doesn't work for, right? And then you need to put them into a system. And I got news for you. Who buys Zillow leads themselves and can tell me what they're paying for a phone connection? Does anybody want to share that? Anybody?
We looked into buyer leads earlier in the year for a couple of zip codes. I think it was like $600 a month. and you got a couple seller leads, but we never really, we felt it better just to pick up the phone, make the phone calls.
I think in New Jersey, which I looked at most recently, one of the team leaders cut back dramatically. He was paying $300 to $1,100 per connection, is what Zillow calls it. Okay, and what a connection is a live phone transfer that they put through to the subscriber on Zillow. Okay, so nothing was under $300 for a low end, and the higher end ones were north of $1,000 for Zillow to do the marketing, get somebody on the phone and connect them with you. Okay, it doesn't mean they're going to buy. That doesn't even mean that they're a qualified buyer. It just means you paid for that connection. Now, if you have inventory, okay, everybody that walks in there is a potential connection.
Yes.
Everyone that walks in there. And if you meet somebody in person, Fran, do you have a better rapport and a better chance of building a relationship that'll equate into a transaction than a phone call?
Yes, for sure you do.
So everybody that walks into your open house can be $300 to $1,000 to buy. We overlook that. You know, sometimes we just throw money at a problem and say, let me buy more leads.
You know what, else I did this morning, Rob, like between 6 and 7 this morning, I was up. I sent 2 people that I sold within the last 5 years comps. They happen to be in condo developments. Just said, this is what's selling in your place, because I know they were in a good cash position, you know, just to get a conversation going. And one responded to me before 8 o'clock this morning, you know, and just to see the sold comps and, you know, just to let them know what they could do. They paid like $125,000 less than they're worth now. So I just was trying to start conversation. That's all.
Fran, this is great. So here's an exercise that maybe next time we get together, somebody will have a great story. But if you look at everybody that you've worked with, maybe even the ones that you didn't sell, what would happen if I called you up and said, hey, Fran, I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to work with you. I know it was a tough market. You know, unfortunately, we didn't get it, but I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the opportunity. Do you think that that might change if you called 60 people that you sold or you showed a house to or you worked with and had that message? I guarantee you there's going to be at least one transaction from that.
Mhm.
Right? And that's, what does that cost us? 0. So that's another call to action for you. Every transaction should yield at least one other transaction. And here's something that I think most of us don't do because we're too busy. Okay, you can ask for referrals in a very comfortable way at least 4 times during the transaction. Okay, ask if they know anyone else that you could help when their offer gets accepted, right? Isn't that a great time to do it?
Yes.
Hey, Ron Piccolo, I'm thrilled we got your contract accepted. You know, I'm super excited for you and your family. By the way, do you know anyone else I might be able to help? Does that feel uncomfortable for anybody on this call? Can every single person have that conversation?
I do it every time, yep.
But most of the people just say, hey, Ron, we got an offer accepted. Great. And the next step is this, right? You forget that process. Okay, that should be ingrained in your head. Every time that there's a good news, there should be an opportunity to say, who do you know I can help? Not, do you have a lead for me? It's who else do you know I can help? Hey, you know, Ron, great news. The appraisal came in and we resolved all the home inspection issues. I'm super excited. It's going to be your new home soon. Do you know anyone else I can help? Right? You can easily do it during the when the final mortgage commitment comes in, all the conditions are cleared. Hey, Ron, do you know what a clear to close means? That means that everything the lender needs to do has been satisfied, including your home insurance. You know, you're soon going to be a homeowner. Do you know anyone else I can help? And then in the
You know,
walkthrough,
we don't usually say it after each, process of the deal. But we usually do it right after we close or at closing. We ask for that, but asking for it, periodically through the deal is a good idea.
so and Ron, I'm sure in your career, at least once or twice, you've gotten people through challenging home inspection issues, absent agents on the other side, confrontational attorneys and other parties to a contract, right? You've solved those problems before, right?
Of course.
I think we should ask for reviews, like, hey, can you do a Zillow review? Can you do a Google review during those periods of time as well? Because that's when they're super happy, right?
Yep.
Hey, Rob.
Yes.
Oh, I was saying, what I do after I have a pen, I send a letter to my seller, thanking them and letting them know that now we're moving into the next phase, which is the processing. I'll be in touch with them along the way and what to expect. And then I include 3 business cards, and I tell them, hey, anybody thinking about buying or selling, to pass these on. And I've had pretty good success with.
John, you're very modest. You've had tremendous success.
Yeah.
You've had a storied, enviable career, and yet I assume that you're here not because you're required to. That maybe you get some value from this, right?
Oh yeah, I think it's good. Just like you say, whether it's a seminar or a podcast, whatever, you're keeping yourself fresh and you're thinking things. And I'm doing a long time, but you get into off into other cycles, and you got to keep getting back in,
Well,
Yep.
even if you pick up one little item every time we meet, or two items every time we meet, add to your business to make it better, it's worth it. It's only an hour. But it's like what you said before, Rob, when you said about Mike Ferry and Tom Ferry. Tony and I probably went to thousands of their seminars from the East Coast to the West Coast of our country. And every time we go there, it sounds the same, but then you go, oh, wow, wait a minute. Something that he said refreshes your mind and it helps you become better at what you're doing.
And Ron, I think that there's twofold to this, right? Number one is you hear it differently, right? But another thing is you're at a different place in your life. So it has different, not only do you hear it differently, but it has different meaning to you at that point in time. So
Hey, Rob,
yes.
I got a question for you as far as marketing, if this is allowed. So I this year I started doing 2,000 mailers every 3.5 months in my area. The direct mail, that bulk mail thing to the post office. Am I allowed to, on the next one I'm working on, what I'm going to put in there, basically saying, man, I'm the buyer's agent. I just sold these 2 houses for whatever, 40 over asking or real quick or whatever. But I'm not the listing agent. I'm the buyer's agent. Am I allowed to do that? Or if I am, how can I word that without getting in trouble?
You can check with Rebecca and I, but yes, you can put that in. You can say, I participated in the sale for these 2 houses,
I have to say participated.
Well, you can say you sold, I think.
All right, we're not going to get a call from the board or anything. Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, just if you're uncertain, run it by Rebecca or I. But congratulations, and one thing that comes to mind, Rob, would be to maybe instead of doing it every 2 or 3 months, do 1/8 of that and do it twice a month, or do it 18 times a year to have more consistency, right?
Yep.
Just a thought.
Thanks.
Guys, real quick, Rob, on that last one, my understanding from the boards is that he should say he participated in the sale. Otherwise, he will get himself in a little bit of a pickle.
And he also has to say where he's pulling the information from, where it can be very tiny at the bottom, but it has to be a disclosure as to where the information was coming from.
Yeah, these were my sales, though.
That's okay. You still have to.
Yeah, but they're not your listing.
They're, yeah,
Okay, thank you.
So Rob, just run it by Rebecca, and if she has to, she'll check with the board if it's questionable. You are your only competition, or your biggest competition. Okay, we're our biggest competition, because if we do everything, the details don't matter. There's no shortcut to success. No one's going to learn or do the work for you. All right. And you must adapt, or you'll become extinct. Okay.
Big
mean-
words right there. You must
mean-
adapt, become extinct.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way the business works, and I love the quote that, learning is the only sustainable advantage that any business or person has.
I have another one, which is if you don't list, you don't last.
Love it.
Yep. Budget your time and money wisely. All right. I'm gonna say that a lot of us, have different definitions of prospecting and developing business. But I think that we need to spend more time on the phone. I mean, technology is great, but in many cases it's a distraction. And some of these, mega agents that we look at and say, how do they do that much business? They must be spending tons and tons in marketing, but so many of them, have that discipline to make a lot of connections, a lot of contacts. I remember there was an agent probably 4 years ago at R4, and I'll just mention one letter, and Robert Garber will know who it is. Q. Remember that one, Robert?
Sure.
And what was your if you had to give 1 to 3 takeaways from Q, what do you remember 4 years later?
He had assigned a point system to all of his activities. And if he didn't reach a certain point total for a day, he knew he wasn't finished with the day yet. And I think that was really, really an important takeaway. The second was that he wasn't afraid to do anything that he felt would be, in a positive way, good for his business. When he first was starting out, it impressed me that, he went to the supermarket and he bagged groceries so that he could talk to the people online while he was doing that. And that helped him find buyers and sellers. So it was just the absolute commitment to success.
All right, Robert, I'm going to mute everybody, and then you can unmute yourself. And then, Robert, do you remember like what success he had in his first year?
No, I'm sorry.
I think it was Chairman's Club or some Chairman's Titan or Diamond in his first full year in the business. And
Yeah.
I think his average sale price was under 200,000 in some rural part of Mississippi, right?
Yeah, he was like up in the mountains somewhere, and it was just unbelievable.
And the intensity he had, the passion he had for the business was contagious, right? You could see it when he spoke, right?
Yeah, and the thing is that he was very personable. Okay, he didn't come across as a used car salesman or somebody like that. He had a genuine interest in each person that he spoke to. And that's something that we all can certainly learn from as well.
Yep. So we need to execute the plans that work. We need to execute the plays that work, and we need to do it consistently. Whether it's making 5 conversations a day or it's doing 4 hours of calls a day, we need to know what our numbers are, and we need to execute on those numbers. I think that will make us better in what we do. It will make us more duplicatable and more prosperous, and we'll be able to help more people. You know, most salespeople make over $500 an hour while prospecting, and admin tasks that we do can be replaced for $10 to $50 an hour. That's the definition of leverage, right? And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again, expecting a different result. Okay. You know, the good markets that we're in recently created a lot of bad habits. We need to, you know, have a plan. You know, some of the most successful, you know, team members I've seen or agents that have been around me, you know, they probably take more vacation than most of us. But when they're working, and then they have these 2-3 month sprints, then they go away for a week or 10 days. Then they work their butt off for the next 2-3 months, and then they have something that they look forward to. Taking time off. Sometimes when I would take a trip, and going back more towards when I was in sales and mortgages, you get more efficient and everything would be lined up before you went away, so that you can hand off your information for somebody to cover for you. What if you're that organized all the time? How much more efficient would you be? Instead of, you know, survival goals, right? I mean, I think a lot of us, you know, we get worried when a deal falls apart or we get a slow month or two. I think we need to look bigger and have, you know, investment and wealth goals. You know, have a goal of buying 1 or 2 investment properties a year, you know, maybe 1 a year. Okay, if you make 4 extra sales, for most of us, we could probably put a down payment on a investment property that's going to give us residual income over time. It's going to appreciate. We should be looking at bigger pictures and doing activities like that for ourselves, our families, and our friends. So those are just some of my thoughts as we look back on the past year and we look forward to the next year. Anybody have anything that I missed that come to your mind? Any thoughts?
So Rob, I would just add, especially at this time of year, I mean, this is perfect timing for it, is to reach out to your previous clients, wish them a happy new year, you know, and just let them know that you're thinking about them, because you want them to be thinking about you. And like I said at the beginning of this broadcast, you know, they'll call you back no matter how long it's been since you had a transaction with them. If they know that you care and you'll work hard for them, that's your bonus.
And it feels good. And if you had certainty, it makes this business so much easier, right? And there's no reason why we shouldn't have absolute certainty. And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Don't get me wrong. It's not easy, but certainty, you know, Karma, how many deals did you do?
72.
You did 72 deals.
Right.
And none of them had any problems, right?
Well, of course, some of them, here it is. You control your client emotion, and that will take you through the transaction. When you feel that you say, listen, for every problem there is a solution. Let's think of how we can solve it together. I felt I have never worked in my life. I love what I do. And that is actually in additional to the money I made, which is great, but also I enjoy working with people.
Carmen, the 72 transactions that you did, is that solo or with the team?
No, actually, I have an admin that she's really helping me with all the paperwork, that it take the time that is, I feel my hours worth $200, and admin maybe she's, you know, worth $20. So that the thing that I don't like to do, that I feel she does that for me. That is basically, I do, you know, we are kind of an agent, like a cook. We have to have 4 burner in the meantime. So I like to, I do listing, I do sale, I do commercial, I do rentals. And you know, I have one client, I made from that client over 40 transaction, just one client. And another one I made for, you know, 21 and 6, about 27 transaction. So definitely, when you love what you do, you don't feel that you did work a day in your life.
Yep. No, I mean that, you know, for those of us who haven't reached that, sometimes it can be frustrating when you're looking at something that's falling apart, but you just have to keep the bigger picture in mind and move forward. Yeah, so I hope that, you know, this helps, inspires, grounds every one of you, because we have a tremendous opportunity. I mean, you know, we have an ability to make 200, 400, $1 million just by refining our skills. And then if you can have fun doing it, what's better than that, right? You get those clients that appreciate you, reflect back, be grateful for that, and that just re-energizes you to do more. Karma, I remember, you know, this is probably close to 30 years ago, one of the first teams that kind of came together with us, the team leader said to me, you know, I learned several years back that I need to delegate a lot of these activities, because even if, you know, I might think I might be slightly better at doing it, if I delegate it to somebody who's available, right, and learning, they're going to eventually be at the same level or better than me, okay, and they're going to be more available, more consistent, so that I can focus on, you know, the $200 or $500 an hour activities that you're focusing on. Okay, so a lot of us have that mindset of we need to do everything. Okay, I can't afford to pay somebody to help me out, right? But if you can't afford to pay somebody to help you out, then what do you think next year is going to look like? You know, maybe if the market's up 10%, maybe you'll be up 10%.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll be up 15, maybe you'll be up 5. But you're not going to have an epic breakthrough by doing the same activities. And I'm sure sometimes it's frustrating to have an admin, right, Karma? Because maybe there's times when there's no work for them to do and you have to pay them. Okay, or you're worried that I'm paying them $20 an hour and I have no assignments for them.
You know what? In this business, you always have something to do all the time. So you just have it, actually, you have a list of the thing to do. I don't start my day without a list. I have to put a list, everything in my head in one piece of paper. And after that, I take them according to my priority, which one that is actually, I have to do number 1, which is number 1 for me, it's a lead. I have to start 10 before 10. I have to take at least 10 phone call before 10 o'clock, except Friday. Friday, I love to listen to your actually meeting, and I enjoy each one of for your advice. Thank you, and happy holiday for everybody with good health and joy.
Yes. So thank you, Karma. Thank you for sharing. Those of you who want to take away, you know, reach out to everybody you work with this year, thank them, and see if that generates more conversations, more business. For the upcoming year, if you're not one of those that are comfortable or desire to be a robo prospector, maybe just have a commitment to speak to 5 people every day. Okay, it's a very attainable number. Okay, 5 conversations a day is a lot of conversations over the period of a year. Okay, and that's going to change your business, and you're going to feel good because you get more comfortable talking to people. The conversations will have significance, substance, meaning, and you're going to grow your income. You'll have the ability to, you know, buy an investment property, do the things that you maybe wanted to do. and everything just comes together. There's no shortcuts. But doing those things will make us all better. I wish you all a happy, healthy, and safe New Year's celebration. And I'm humbled and honored to work with you all for the upcoming years that we'll be together. So
Thank you.
thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Rob,
Thank
just
you,
take a minute
Rob.
to
Yeah, Robert?
read the
Here.
chat, Rob,
Yeah.
because there's some things in there that are personal messages to you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
bye.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
New Year.
That's great. Thank you for pointing those out, Robert. Rebecca, Tiffany, thank you, everybody. Have a great and safe holiday weekend and awesome upcoming year. Bye, everybody.
Bye.